If you want to support the platform just in case anything like this happens again, you can do it by way of PayPal, Patreon, Cash App, and also by the Anchor. And you can also further support the platform by way of going to the Teespring store or the shoe store that is located in the comment section below. All right, so this is where we are at this point in time in this country where we have to have certain laws that are enacted in order to stop people from doing very stupid and nonsensical things. So here we go. San Francisco officially introduces Caren Act to stop racially biased 911 calls. Caren stands for Caution Against Racially Exploitative Non-Emergency Act. A San Francisco city official is taking aim at so-called Karens by introducing an ordinance making it illegal to make bogus, racially biased calls to cops. Supervisor Shaman Walton said he introduced the Caren Act, or the Caution Against Racially Exploitative Non-Emergency Act, during Tuesday's Board of Supervisors meeting in response to several high-profile 911 calls involving people of color. Quote, "This is the Caren Act we need, and the racist 911 calls are unacceptable." And that was stated by him in a tweet on Tuesday. The ordinance would amend San Francisco's police code to make it unlawful for anyone to fabricate false racially biased emergency reports. The legislation seeks to protect the rights of the rights of communities of color who are victimized by fraudulent emergency calls. The name of the ordinance is a clear reference to Caren, a slang term popularized on social media for entitled or bigoted white women who unnecessarily call police on people of color. Walton noted several local examples while announcing the ordinance, including a white couple who called police on Filipino man stenciling Black Lives Matter in front of his San Francisco home in June. Police in Almadea have also appointed an outside investigator after someone called the cops on a black man in late May who was dancing and exercising outside. Meanwhile, in New York, Amy Cooper, a 40-year-old white woman who called the cops on a black man as he birdwatched in Central Park in May, was charged Monday with falsifying reports on an incident in the third degree. A similar proposed state legislation in June to end discriminatory police calls by classifying them as a hate crime. If passed, Walton's ordinance would allow victims to seek civil remedy in court. Making a false report to police is already a crime, but there is no punishment for someone who calls the cops due to a perceived threat based on someone's race, religion, or appearance. And this was stated by Rob Bonta, who is a Democrat of Oakland. He also states, if you're afraid of a black family barbecuing in the community park, a black man dancing, doing his normal exercise routine in a bike lane, or someone who asks you to comply with dog leash laws in a park, and your immediate response is to call the police, the real problem is your personal prejudice. Under Bonta's proposed bill, anyone victimized by discriminatory or fraudulent calls to cops could sue the caller for up to $10,000. All right, so hopefully, what I'm hoping is that this will pass and that other states will follow suit, because this is something that is very much needed. Because a lot of people like to complain that police resources are being used up, that 911, emergency operating lines are being clogged up with unnecessary nonsense, which is all true. And this is even more so when it comes to the calls that so-called Karens and Darrens like to commit on an everyday basis when it deals with black people, and due to the fact that they fear the melanin in their skin, or they fear that due to the person's voice, maybe they might have bass in their voice, or maybe there might be some type of excitement, or it can even go to the effect of, well, I don't want this person in this neighborhood selling water or selling candy or I don't want them riding bikes here. Or as somebody else stated that one white woman stated in a news report that she didn't want a white kid, um, using a Black Lives Matter sign because she was in fear of her life due to the fact that uh, she thought that people, unsavory characters, right? So as you can see, even with that small clip, if that clip is there, depending on what takes place, you had a white woman that decided that she wanted to stop in traffic or wrap around or however it is that she did, and call police because one white man, not a huge protest, literally, one white man was on a corner holding up a sign that says Black Lives Matter. She proceeded to call the police. The police responded. They came there and she got offended. And she also stated at one point, as you heard her state, she was like, hey, kids have to read that sign. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? That Black Lives Matter, that's a bad word? Is that something that's so negative that it's going, is going to scar a child for life? Like I'm a little bit confused. I wonder if she would have that same sentiment about the young 9-year-old girl who had the police called on her due to the fact that she decided on her own accord that she wanted to write Black Lives Matter on the street because this is how she felt naturally, internally, because she had no type of hatred, bigotry, or discrimination in her heart.
3 words Mira Ackland wanted to help spread. She doesn't have a loud voice.
Come on.
And she's 9, so no social media just yet. But she has chalk.
I wrote Black Lives Matter.
In big, bright letters in front of her home.
Black and white people, they should be treated the samely, and I wanted to show my support how much I really care about black people.
Neighbors came out to help us, and we've had mostly all support.
Until she says a neighbor called police.
An officer pulled up and put his window down and said, it's chalk.
And my whole body was like shaking.
But they didn't stop her.
They said that I should do it more often, and like if it goes away, then I should just do it more and more.
And I said, honey, as uncomfortable as you feel, people of color feel this fear every day, multiplied times 1,000,000. She couldn't understand why people would hate someone just because of their skin color. Why would someone?
As we were talking, neighbors became angry.
You don't have to call for backup.
No, honey, that was your mom.
Honey,
Your mom called the police yesterday
94 years old.
and called the police on a 9-year-old.
Shut the up.
Oh.
Shut your mouth.
Despite the discouragement, Mira's mission to spread this message worked.
It was alarming that we've reached a point in life to where we have to call the police on a 3rd grader who just simply wants to voice her opinion and voice her feelings on how she feels.
Christopher Burton knew his daughter wanted to be a part of the Black Lives Matter movement. After catching wind of Mira's efforts, they showed up ready to draw.
Where she can come out, help support another young lady as well too who is going through something at such a young age.
This is like a really important message that needed to be heard.
to like kids all over the place, like kids, adults, everybody.
And this kid was listening and using the small resources she had to spread a message she says doesn't quite fit on paper.
I'm just gonna make it bigger and do it over and over again.
In Canal Winchester, Kaylee Gunderson, ABC6 News.
So obviously by the two examples that I was able to give, both of which were two young white individuals, one male and one female, that decided to do something without anybody black being there, without anybody black telling them this is what you need to do. They did this because of this is what they felt, and they did it by themselves. But obviously amongst the majority, right, you have a lot of those who disagree with Black Lives Matter, which means that the few, for example, of these two individuals here that decide that they want to do this on their own accord, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals out there who will literally rail against these two individuals and do everything that they can in order to instill that type of hatred, bigotry, and discrimination that they feel themselves. So this is why the Caren Act needs to be a law. It needs to be passed, and we need this in all of the states to stop all of this nonsense from taking place. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about the examples and everything I listed about the Caren Act in the comment description below. And as always, peace, love, and stay tuned for the next video.